The original PlayStation had a handful of air combat simulator-esque games during its era, one of which was the first PS game I'd ever played, Air Combat. It was a fun simulator and was one of many for the PS1, which also included Wingover, Agile Warrior, and Raging Skies. But there was also another that snuck its way into the library, and while I won't go so far to say it's horrible, it's not that great. Aces of the Air was developed by A1 Games and published by Highway Star and released for the PS1 back in 2002. Aces of the Air is your typical old-school World War type flight simulator where you shoot other planes, bomb buildings on the ground. It's pretty standard stuff. The unfortunate part is that's pretty much the gist of the game. You fly, you shoot, you bomb. Now, anyone that plays a combat simulator knows that there's not much more to it when playing these types of games, but man, this one's kinda stinky. On the whole, here's the game. You start by sitting through a number of loading screens, which is pretty standard for the original PlayStation and CD-based consoles of the time. The good thing is that the load times aren't that long, but that may be more due to the fact that there's not a whole lot to load. It's pretty light in its content. You select your mission, and you start by learning the basic controls. How to fly, shoot, move, all that standard stuff. To begin with, though, you notice there's a handful of planes to choose from, but you don't get to select anything but the bare-bones K9 plane at this point. However, at the very least, you do get to select a couple of different colors for your aircraft, so there's that. Once your mission begins, though, so does the training. Basically, you destroy everything you can. Pretty easy for the most part. But the difficulty in this game doesn't stem from the tasks that are laid out for you. The control is very stiff and not overly sensitive when it comes to steering your plane, so when you're tailing someone, it can become somewhat difficult to line them up to finally shoot them down. They'll fire back at you, but the damage is minimal at best. After you destroy the enemy fighters, then you're instructed to destroy the bases on the ground on the islands below you. Well, your first instinct is to fire your missiles or shoot at them directly with your machine guns. Problem is, as you line them up to fire at the buildings, you continue to get a warning to raise your altitude. Once you do, you're not in line to attack the buildings, so it's a bit of a problem. If you drop below 3,500 feet, you crash. And it's not like you crash right away. You have to sit through a long, over-the-top, unnecessarily slow crash sequence before finally being told that you've failed the mission. So you try again, thinking this time, if you get far enough away and can swing through and get a few shots in time after time, you can finally get those buildings. Well, no, that's not the case either. I died 4 or 5 different times thinking that if I just fired away from high enough, I could do it. Well, that didn't work either. I kept crashing and crashing and crashing, and this is just the first mission. Well, it turns out that it's a lot simpler than I made it out to be. I'm not one to read the instruction book, but it turns out that this particular plane, the K9, well, it's equipped with bombs. That's right, all you have to do is hover over the building, push the triangle button, line up your bombs, and drop them. Boom. Done. Even the game sarcastically mocks you afterwards. Great, it says. No punctuation, nothing. Asshole game. I suffered through the pain of this so you didn't have to, folks, so be thankful for that. So, unless you're an idiot like me and you didn't figure that out right away to push triangle and drop the bombs, you get to move on to the additional levels, where the missions are altered and you get additional planes, but that doesn't make things any less frustrating. In one of the levels, you're required to chase down the enemy fighters and destroy them. It's all fine and dandy, but you hold down your throttle to try and catch up to them, and it seems like it's a never-ending chase. They keep flying away from you, and good luck trying to go in a different direction because you'll just spin around in circles. Oh, but that's not the worst part. If you do decide to do a full-on chase to try and gain ground on the other planes, there's a warning that pops up that tells you that you're leaving the mission area. Then, if you choose to disobey the prompt, the game takes over and moves you back into the proper area anyways, so you don't have a choice. But in order to hunt down the enemies, you have to chase them. If they leave the mission area, you're screwed, because they don't come back. This is only the 3rd level of the game, and I couldn't get past it, maybe because I'm a sucky gamer, but I tried different planes, and it doesn't seem to matter. If you don't kill the enemy planes early on in the level, good luck. It's game over. Eventually, you'll just go kamikaze and rather sleep with the fishies than torment yourself any longer. As I mentioned, Aces of the Air isn't the worst video game I've played, but there's not a lot of reason to play it more than once. There's no intensity, it's bland, the music's the same in every level, and the control makes it hard to enjoy. Review a bad game? Yeah, this one definitely falls under that category.